Welcome back, and I'm talking to Phil Schirmer, and Phil is the city engineer. Phil, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Phil, I'd like to explain to our viewers some information about the city's proposed stormwater utility. Start by telling us, what is a stormwater utility?
Okay. Melinda, a stormwater utility is very much like water service or sewer service, that you provide services in exchange for a collected fee. Storm drains are kind of out of sight and out of mind. But basically all the runoff that comes off of your property, that is the rainfall that comes off your roof or your driveway, ultimately ends up in the river. It gets to the river by going through our storm sewer system.
And why do we need a storm water utility? What would be the benefit of having that?
Well, there's really two reasons, two major reasons. The first is we have many stormwater needs that are known in Roanoke. We've identified almost 200 projects citywide, has a total value of about $60 million that need to be done. They've been on the books for literally 30 years, and we haven't had a resource to do that with. So we certainly want to get that work caught up. The second part, probably more important, is the water quality piece. There's a whole new set of regulations that are coming down to the city from EPA. They originate in Washington. They're passed on to the state agency. In turn, they get passed on to the local government. But what it says is we need to clean up our rivers and streams. In Roanoke, we have 13 major streams in the city. 9 of those are already listed as impaired. So we already have water quality issues. We have the technology in place that we can clean those up, but we need to put systems in place to clean the storm water before it goes into those systems, before it ends up in our rivers and streams.
And what is some of the evidence that this is a problem? I mean, like when it rains a lot, you see standing water or flooding. Will it affect that kind of thing too?
Well, when it rains, our telephone rings, and we get a lot of calls from folks that have, I call it nuisance flooding, but it's standing water in backyards. It's standing water in an intersection or by a bus stop. Anytime we have a heavy rain in Roanoke, you can see those. They're not concentrated in any one part of the city. They're really citywide type issues. As I said, we have almost 200 projects that we've already identified that can take care of those problems. They're ones that we can fix. We just need the resource to be able to address those.
And the utility would then help alleviate some of those types of problems.
The proposed revenue from the utility, we're estimating would be about $3 million a year, so it would give us an opportunity to start working down that list. Those problems aren't something that happened overnight. It's going to take us a while to work down that list, but it would give us that sustainable resource so that we could do our planning work and implement many of those projects.
Well, let's talk about how properties are affected. Like for the average homeowner, how are they going to be affected by having a stormwater utility? There be a fee involved? Talk about that a little bit. There
would be a fee involved, and it's a very equitable system. And what we have done in Roanoke is we have done a sample of all the residential structures in Roanoke, and we've determined that on average there's about 1,920 square feet of impervious surface. That would be a roof, a driveway, a patio area. So we've come and said the rate would be based upon $3 per month for a typical homeowner, a residential user. And that's based upon that 1,920 square feet of impervious area. Commercial users would pay the same rate.
I see.
But they would pay based upon the actual measured impervious surface that they have on their property. So if they had an acre parking lot, for example, we would simply divide that acre by the 1,920 square feet times the $3 per month fee. So the fee is really, it's the same for commercial users as it is for homeowners.
So this is runoff for impervious type surfaces. What if someone were to, let's say, create a new parking lot or whatever with a special surface that allowed the water to percolate through? Would they get some sort of a discount?
Absolutely. We'd be delighted to see that, and we certainly want to encourage that type of activity. We recently did a fire station up on Williamson Road that had some porous paving. Those are just the type of technologies that we need to implement to clean up our stormwater and reduce the runoff that comes from the site. We can also use vegetative strips, some planting things, and some green features like that to not only reduce the runoff, but clean it up before it leaves the parking lot. So we are going to propose a series of credits that would be available to commercial users for anybody that wants to come back and retrofit their property and take advantage of reducing what they're going to pay each month.
Phil, do other localities have stormwater utilities in Virginia? How does that work?
Well, we already have, there's about 10 in Virginia now. They're mostly down on the eastern part of the state. Norfolk, Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads, Suffolk. I think the city of Richmond this last spring passed a stormwater utility as well. And the reason they're down in those areas, those are the more populous part of the state. The regulations that came down from EPA that dealt with stormwater quality originated in the early 1990s. And they were targeted towards larger cities, those with larger populations. Now, because we're continuing to have water quality issues, they're coming towards some of the smaller cities. So those that have populations of 100,000 or less are tasked with these same water quality standards that the larger cities have had to deal with about 15 years ago. So we're in that same boat. All of our neighbors as well are going to have to deal with this same issue. So Roanoke County, Salem, Vinton, Botetourt, they're really looking at the population of the Metropolitan Service Area, or the MSA. So virtually everybody in the Roanoke Valley is going to be having to address water quality issues as well as water quantity issues.
Because all our water sources connect with each other and they all affect each other. Is that
storm drainage and runoff really doesn't recognize political boundaries. I know many times we want to say it's the other guy across the line that's creating the problem, but it really doesn't recognize any boundary. And this really, it's a community-wide problem.
Really is.
And we intend to try to, is our proposal to address it on a community-wide basis. So everybody contributes to the problem. If you're a homeowner, you have some runoff that comes off your property. Commercial property, perhaps you have a little more. But everybody contributes to the problem, so we need everybody to contribute to help us fix it.
If our viewers want to know more about this proposed stormwater utility, how can they get some information?
Well, there's a lot of resources available to them. They can go to the city's webpage and go to the engineering department, and we have a PowerPoint presentation that people can look at or download if they like. I'm more than happy for myself or someone on my staff to come out and talk to any neighborhood group, any business group. Simply give us a call, 853-2731. We'll be happy to come out and talk with you. We're in the process now of developing a web page. Hope to have that up in the next 2 or 3 weeks for folks to go look at as another resource.
So that would be up sometime in October, you think?
I plan to have it up that quick. And if people want to send us an email, you can email us at engineer@roanokeva.gov, and we'll be happy to communicate with you that way as well.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And I hope our viewers will contact you if they have any questions.
Good. Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.